So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nastahdihi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala tajida lahu waliyyan murshida. Of course, this is, I believe, our fourth or third meeting. So hopefully, inshallah, we'll continue in doing a lot and covering a lot because I'll be going to Lebanon, inshallah, to do my defense. So next week, we won't be having a class, inshallah, because I'll be... Is it next week? What's the date next week?
I think it's 20... next week's
the 5th?
May 5th.
May 5th? Then I'll be able to do it.
So you'll do next week?
Are you sure it's going to be May 5th?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's May 5th, then I'll be here, inshallah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the 12th and then?
The 12th, I won't be here.
You won't be?
Inshallah. Yeah. Inshallah. All right. So the question is, what if I delayed making up till the next Ramadan? Generally, we're supposed to be making up as soon as possible. But if you delayed making up till the next Ramadan, Sayyidah Aysha used to make up her fast during Sha'ban, which is the month right before the following Ramadan. All right. So the reason why she used to delay that is because she was married, the Prophet ﷺ is there, so she didn't really have the chance or the opportunity to have the freedom to do it. So she delayed it. She would delay it like right before Ramadan. It can happen though that the sister, for example, delayed it and miscalculated and got her period. All right, just when she thought that she can do it. At the end of Sha'ban, she miscalculated. What happens then? So generally, there are two different opinions between scholars. One opinion is that she would make up and be at sin for delaying for that long. Two, the second opinion is that she would have to pay a fidya, or a kafara, meaning she would have to feed a person 2 meals, which is the kafara. All right? And also make up. So she would make up and pay a kafara. Yet that opinion doesn't have really an evidence to support it. There are ahadith, or not ahadith, but there are athar. Athar are different than ahadith because athar are narrations based on the Sahaba and what they said, but ahadith is based on the Prophet ﷺ. Alright? So there are some Sahaba or athar on the Sahaba that they said that this is what you do, but it's not authentic. Alright? Meaning that leaves it that the person is at sin for leaving it till the other Ramadan, but you will still have to make up. All right? But you will still have to make up. Now, for somebody that is traveling, of course, why did we get into the traveling part? We got into the traveling because when we're talking about travel, it's one of the people that are excused from fasting. The question that pops up is the person that is traveling, are they excused because of just having the intention that they're going to be traveling? Tomorrow I'm going to be going to Morocco, for example. Okay, does the excuse start from me? Well, anyways, I'm going to be going to Morocco. That means my flight is going to start. My flight is going to be in a couple of hours. Let's say my flight is going to be at 7 in 5 hours, for example. All right. Does that mean that I can anyways start from now, not fast, because my flight is going to be before iftar? No. Your permission to break the fast does not start until you are actually out of the area of residence. All right? Until you're far away from your area of residence. That's when your permission as a traveler to break your fast starts. When you say left the area of residence, that would mean, for example, for us being in the Twin Cities, that would mean you left the St. Paul and Minneapolis area, the Twin Cities. All right? Now, is there a mile radius or something like that? No, there is no evidence on any of that, but it's mainly left for that particular area, the particular culture, in where are they considered within the suburbs, within the city of that area, or are they out? If you are out, then you have now left the area of residence. Now you can start to break your fast. If you're a traveler. Here's another question. Is it better for the person to break their fast while they're traveling, or is it better for them? Or is it better for them to fast and say, I'm a good Muslim, it's a lot easier for me, I'm going to Wisconsin. Wisconsin is just 5 hours from here. So I'll just, I don't see why a person should break their fast. I mean, Wisconsin is just a half-hour flight or an hour flight. All right? Does that make them a better Muslim? No. It doesn't make them a better Muslim for saying that they don't want to break their fast. And it doesn't make them a better Muslim. In fact, it would be haram for the person to actually say, what's your name? Nada. To say nada, the flight is just an hour away, so you're just a bad Muslim for breaking your fast. No, it doesn't make you a better Muslim. That's actually tanattu'. That's actually extremism in Islam. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَن تُؤْتَى رُخَصُ كَمَا يُحِبُّ أَن تُؤْتَى عَزَائِمُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes that people take the permission, the eases, just like as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes people to take that enthusiasm to do more. So it doesn't make you a better Muslim for being more extreme. Now, when we say more extreme, based on the evidences, all right? Now, the other thing is that is the person rewarded more for saying, well, I mean, it's not that far, and it's just an hour flight. I can do it. Does it make him a better Muslim? The Prophet ﷺ did both. The Prophet ﷺ fasted and also broke the fast on journeys, meaning that both are right. It's a matter of preference. And scholars have different opinions, I mentioned that before, on whether rukhsa is preferred or azima is preferred. What is rukhsa? Rukhsa is when you have a permission to break your fast, you have a permission to break your fast, and you also have the enthusiasm to continue your fast. Which is better? To take the rukhsa, that is the permission to break the fast, or the azima? I can do it, and I know I can. I don't find, why not? I know it's allowed, but I still want to do it. That's the azim. All right? You can go for that as well. And scholars have different opinions on whether this is better or that is better. Regardless, at least we know both options are considered in Islam. What if I started my travel and then I realized that I was too weak to continue? Started the travel, and then you're like, I know I started my Ramadan, but all of a sudden, I'm starting to feel dehydrated already. I thought I can make it. All right? Now, generally, if you started, whether you started in Mutatawwa, so if somebody started their fast and then they realize I can't continue, especially if we're talking about voluntary fast. For example, you're fasting on a Monday, all right? And then your friend calls you up and she says, "Hey, we're actually having a night out with, or not night out, let's say day out, because at night, anyways, it's after a bakr. All right, we're having a day out at what's your name? Bayan's house. All right, and you're like, what are they going to be cooking? They're getting some stuff and nice food from Pakistani New York gyro and biryani and stuff. Hey, that's a good idea. And you're like, but I'm already starting fasting. But it's not an obligatory fast. It's a voluntary fast, meaning it's just an extra fast. You can do that. You can say, well, I guess I'll just fast on another day. Alright? You can do that. But if you're actually doing an obligatory fast, meaning you're making a fast for a day of Ramadan, or you're making an obligatory fast, for example, kafar or something, then you cannot say, well, sounds like a good dish. Nope, you would have to continue because you're doing an obligatory fast. Unless, for example, you were traveling. If you're traveling and then in the middle of the way, you were like, I think I'm too dehydrated. In that case, the Prophet ﷺ actually said, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ himself was on a journey. Listen to this. The Prophet ﷺ was on a journey. And then people, when he got to a place called Qura' al-Ghamim, and it's a place between Medina and Mecca, and then he was told that people are starting to find hardship in the fast. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was told that they're looking at you to see is he going to break the fast or not. Meaning that they got dehydrated. So then the Prophet ﷺ got a cup of water and purposely, in public, got the cup of water, held it, just so that people would see. He's getting you a cup of water. He's putting it up. And he was doing it slowly in order for people to see that he's breaking his fast. He broke the fast. Yet, when he drank, the Prophet ﷺ was told that some people didn't break the fast. The Prophet ﷺ said, أُولَئِكَ الْعُصَاةُ أُولَئِكَ الْعُصَاةُ. Those are the sinners. Scholars had different opinions on why did he call them sinners? Did he call them sinners because they saw him drinking at the time, but they didn't drink and do what he did? Or is it because he is saying that if you are in that situation and you don't drink, that you would be considered a sinner? Now scholars, are you understanding what I'm saying? Now scholars had different opinions on that, but generally the Prophet ﷺ, the most important part of it is that the Prophet ﷺ, he was fasting and then went on a journey. In the middle of the way, he broke the fast, even though it was an obligatory fast. Now, if the person, of course, we're still continuing the different types of the people that can break the fast. So a traveler, we talked about women and having their periods. And now, healthy person, if they feared illness due to fasting. Person is healthy. They're totally healthy. But they're like, well, I'm not really sure I'm able to handle fasting. So I'll just break my fast. Now, let's look at this. Generally, you cannot not fast simply because you think you can't handle it. You have to attempt. You can't say, I might not handle fasting. You have to attempt. And you can't say, but I get dehydrated easily. Nope, you have to attempt and you have to take the step. Because al-yaqinu la yazulu bishak. You cannot break the fast until you are right now starting to lose fluids, until right now you're starting to get dizzy, you're starting to see lights, etc. That's when your body's giving you the sign that it's really not feeling good and you're starting to go downhill with illness. But to just randomly or just say, well, I know I can't, it's anyways too long, and I know that sometimes I've had this before happening to me where my blood sugar went low, etc. That happening once, it doesn't mean it's going to happen every single time. Yet, if the person has a medical case where, for example, they need to take insulin or they need to take certain meds for high blood pressure, cholesterol, whatever it is, and if they don't take it, or they can't switch those meds to be during suhoor time, that's when they can break the fast. Go ahead.
Does insulin break your fast?
Any type, oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right. If fasting does get you sick, you are sure it does get you sick. For example, like somebody that needs to take a medication. If you take a pill, that still is considered a fast breaker. You take a pill, it's a fast breaker. Any type of, let me say, you're bringing in something that is a type of a nutrient, is a fast breaker. If it's a nutrient, it's a fast breaker. So, for example, let me answer your question right now. Let's do it like this. Anything that goes into the gel breaks the fast. The question is, what is a gel? If anything that goes inside the gel breaks the fast, what is the gel? Is it the mouth or is it the body? Why did scholars have different opinions? Scholars had different opinions because, generally speaking, what breaks the fast is eating, drinking, and intercourse, sexual relations. So, some scholars said, simple, it's something entering the body. So the first opinion said, gel is anything entering the body, regardless of what it is. You know what? Even if you got stabbed by a knife, or if somebody poked you with a needle, that means your fast is invalid. This is the first opinion. The second opinion said, no. The second opinion said, no, il-jawf is really anything that feeds the mouth, or anything that is considered an intercourse, meaning anything that is sexual relations. That's a different thing, that's an exception. But it's supposed to be if it's feeding. That's why food and water. And that's why they said, well, the Prophet ﷺ said that if you want to make wudu, exaggerate, meaning do lots of istinshaq. Istinshaq is when you sniff water. The Prophet ﷺ said, unless you're fasting. So the second opinion said, see, the Prophet ﷺ said, unless you're fasting. But he didn't say that we're somehow supposed to be keen on dust when we're walking in the desert, because that's not a nutrient. All right? Now, based on these two definitions of what is a jawf, scholars had different opinions on things like eye drops, things like even a testing, at an OB clinic. They put you the speculum and you feel like a car all of a sudden, all right? And then that's a totally, or even when they do ultrasounds, vaginal ultrasounds, totally different. Now, these things, do they break your fast or not? Differences of opinions between scholars, but the preponderant is, when you say preponderant, meaning the most accurate answer, is that it doesn't break your fast because it does not feed you. So, doing an insulin does not break your fast because it's not necessarily a nutrient. Doing a blood test is not a fast breaker because a blood test, they're not giving you vitamins, they're taking from your blood. Or things like an eye drop, unless you're actually pouring and you taste the eye drop in your mouth, then your fast is invalid. But if you're just doing an eye drop, because anyways, we know that ENT, we know that your ears, your nose, and your throat, they're all connected with the same pathway. So if you're going to wash your face, some little parts of some little particles of water might actually go inside, but it doesn't break your fast. In fact, even if you swim, sometimes you feel that the chlorine went into your mouth. Right? You guys swim, right? You would feel that the chlorine went into your mouth. Did it go into your mouth through your ears, or did it go through your nose, or did it go through through your eyes. I don't know what, but in the end is that if you feel the taste, it breaks your fast. But if you don't feel the taste, something entering the jawf is not necessarily a fast breaker unless it's a nutrient. Alright? Same thing, for example, people that have asthma, that inhaler, does it break the fast? No, it doesn't. Because it's not a nutrient, it's simply air. It's not a nutrient, it's air with little particles of medicine. It's not a fast breaker. Does it make sense now? Now, same thing. You went to a dentist, all right? And you had a tooth pulled out, or they put you anesthesia. It's not a fast breaker. Yet, remember I said differences of opinions between scholars, all right? Just because they had differences of interpretations and definitions for what is a jawf. Got it? Preponderant, if it's only food or water or real intercourse, that's real intercourse. That's the only thing that would break the fast. Is it clear? Okay. Is it clear first? Okay, good. So if a healthy person feared illness due to fasting, just having the fear, remember this, al-yaqinu la yazulu bishak, meaning what? Just having the fear. Your fear means you're more in doubt. You're not sure. Let's say a person works a hard job. Or let's say you're having your finals. All right? Let's do this, you guys. Pay attention. You're doing your finals, your SATs, your whatever different tests. And you're like, I know I'm not going to pass this test if I'm fasting, because I'm constantly hungry. All right? Just because you fear, it's not a considerable reason for breaking the fast. But if you are studying, for example, or if you are ill, we're talking about some illness, and you feel that this illness is, or the doctor would tell you that this illness is going to take longer to heal because you're missing out on fluids, then you can break the fast, because now we're sure of something. But just fearing, oh, I might not be able to focus, is not enough. You have to be sure. So if you start studying, and all of a sudden you're so dehydrated, you're starting to get dizzy, you're even starting to feel that there's sounds in your ears and all that, then you can break your fast. And you make it up on another day. Is everybody understanding? Now, when you say make up on another day, that is after being sure. After being sure, not it didn't happen, but it did happen that you went into dehydration, you started getting dizzy, you're starting to hear tuning sounds in your ears, you're starting to see lights. That's telling you that, okay, your body is right now reacting to severe dehydration. Then you can break your fast. All right? Now, then you broke your fast, not because of the test, but you broke your fast because of the illness that you're starting to go through. You make up on another day, not feed. Because the people that feed on behalf instead of that day are only the people that have a permanent reason not to fast. Or breastfeeding and pregnant women, we talked about that last week. So if you have a permanent reason, like an elderly person or somebody with a chronic disease, then those people can feed on behalf of that day, and that would be called fidya, not kafara, fidya. Because fidya is different than kafara. The word fidya, note that down, you guys, note that down. The word fidya is when you're actually paying because it's not that you're committing a sin, but you are not actually required to do that particular obligation. For example, the elderly, if they're not able to fast, it's not that they're not able to fast. Just them not being able to fast actually makes them not obligated to fast. But they still have to pay instead of those days. Approximately $10 each day that they didn't fast. What if they couldn't afford it? If they couldn't afford it, they will just do istighfar. Alright? They will just do what? Istighfar. A person that has a hard job, somebody that works in construction, especially right now, we've got many guys working in construction, or especially during the spring, winter, summer, many people work in construction. Same thing. They can't say, "Oh, well, I'm working a hard job, so let me just break my fast because anyways I'm working a hard job." No, not until you start getting the symptoms that you are starting to go downhill with your health, dehydrated, you're starting to get dizzy, you're starting to lose focus. That's when you can break your fast. But you can't start from the beginning of the day. I've got a hard job, I work in construction, so let me break my fast. No. You have to put the attempt. Alright? You gotta attempt to fast, and then if you're not able to, that's when you can break the fast. Summarizing the reasons that qualify breaking the fast. Matters that qualify, in other words, excuses for you to not fast. Number 1, talked about old age. We talked about sickness. Healthy person if they feared illness due to fasting. We talked about that. A person that has a hard job, whoever couldn't fast due to extreme hunger or thirst. If somebody couldn't fast due to extreme hunger or thirst, they cannot yet break. And unfortunately, you guys, at least here in America, I find it that many people, because they weren't trained from early childhood to fast, many of them are really easy and saying, "Oh yeah, I know I get dehydrated." Well, of course you're going to get dehydrated. There is going to be some level of dehydration. There's no doubt about that. And of course you're going to get super hungry. Of course. There's no doubt about that. And of course you're going to get some level of weakness. There's no doubt about that. But we're talking about a point where your body is starting to get affected negatively, where not, some type of weakness, but you're starting to really get dizzy, you're starting to really lose focus. That's what we're talking about. Alright? So some level of dehydration is expected. That does not give the person the reason to break the fast. Some level of weakness, that's expected. That's part of the jihad. That's part of the jihad. And unfortunately, I see many people right away, I can't fast anyways because I get dehydrated. Of course you're going to get dehydrated. Of course you're going to get dehydrated. Now, pregnant and breastfeeding women, we talked about that. Hired breastfeeding women. Women that are hired to breastfeed. That doesn't happen in our time. Although there's nothing wrong with it. But the women that were hired to breastfeed, they too can break their fast because they're considered still breastfeeding. Traveling, joining the army. Intercourse during the day of Ramadan is totally forbidden. Intercourse, meaning sexual relations between the husband and wife, is totally forbidden. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. Now, one thing is, when we say intercourse totally forbidden during the day of Ramadan, there is no doubt about that between scholars because the ayah was clear about it. Evidence from the hadith. We mentioned the ayah. Number 2 is that the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Hurairah narrated the hadith, that a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and the man said, "Halakt, I'm destructed, I'm doomed." And he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَقَالَ وَمَاذَا? What happened? And the man said, وَقَعْتُ بِأَهْلِي, fell on my wife. Notice, you guys, the adab. He didn't use a three-letter word. Alright? He just said, I just fell. Look at the adab, you guys. This is very important. Because the Prophet ﷺ, even in the Quran, it never used that term in a clear sense. It always had the adab. Always had the adab. Even when he talked about Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he just said that him and his mom, كَانَا يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ. How can they be gods? They ate and drank. How could they be gods? Meaning what? They used the bathroom too. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was using the adab of talking. The Prophet ﷺ actually said, لَيْسَ الْمُؤْمِنُ بِالطَّعَانِ وَلَا اللَّعَانِ وَلَا الْفَاحِشِ وَلَا الْبَذِيءِ. A believer is not ta'an, does not curse. وَلَا اللَّعَانِ, and is not constantly damning things. وَلَا الْفَاحِشِ, does not speak of things that are supposed to be private in an explicit manner. وَلَا الْفَاحِشِ وَلَا الْبَذِيء. الْبَذِيء is somebody that describes private things in clear words, in public even. What you do in the bathroom is a disgusting thing. You don't say it outwardly. What you do between your husband, that's supposed to be private. It's not to be discussed. The different changes, or even describing men, women, all that, this is not to be talked about in public whatsoever. This is supposed to be very personal. Words that are, let me say, different languages, and where just maybe bad words. That's not a good believer doesn't use this type of language. Even when the man came to the Prophet ﷺ, he just said, وَقَعْتُ بِأَهْلِي. I fell on my wife. You understand? He didn't say anything in detail. That's the adab. That's the manner of a mu'min. A manner of a mu'min always carries these manners, even when they're going to ask a question. قَالَ تَجِدُ رَقَبَةً. The Prophet ﷺ told him, تَجِدُ رَقَبَةً. Can you find a slave to free? Remember, Islam is very keen on freeing slaves. Because Islam is actually a religion that had the principle of ending slavery. That's a different story. قَالَ لَا. The man said, no. قَالَ فَهَلْ تَسْتَطِيعُ هَلْ تَسْتَطِيعُ أَن تَصُومَ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ. Are you able to fast 2 consecutive months? Just for that day. Just for that event. Are you able to fast 2 consecutive months? You know what 2 consecutive months means? If you break one day for other than a reason like a period, you're going to have to start over. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? Or just for that day. 2 consecutive months. You miss out on one day, you're going to start over. 60 days. Not a mess. So the man said, no. قال فهل تستطيع أن تطعم 60 مسكينا. Are you able to feed 60 needy people? Now the man said, قال لا. No, not even that. I can't feed 60 people. فجاء رجل من الأنصار بعرق. A man from Al-Ansar, from the dwellers of Medina, came in and brought araq, and it's a certain quantity for tamr, for dates. And then the man brought it to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ told the man that came to say that he fell on his wife, he told him, here, take this, and go do sadaqah. In other words, donate it to people that are in need. So the man said, Wallahi ya Rasulullah, ما بين لابتيها أهل بيت أحوج منه. There's not a single family that needs this more than our own home, more than our own household. The Prophet ﷺ actually laughed, and he told him, take it, you and your wife and your children eat from it. You and your wife go eat from it. Look at the rahmah. Here. And it was brought to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ just laughed. It's like, so you did this, and you can't even afford to do any of this, but you still do this. So the Prophet ﷺ just laughed and gave it to him. ما بين لابتيها said, ما بين لابتيها said, by Allah who sent you with the truth. Between these two mountains, that is the two mountains of Medina, there's nobody more poor than us. There's nobody poorer than us. So the Prophet ﷺ tells him to take it and go feed his wife and himself from it. In other words, just seek istighfar. What does that hadith tell us? That hadith tells us that husband and wife relations, meaning sexual relations between husband and wife, actually, if it happens during the day of Ramadan, is actually fast. It's actually haram, number one. Two, it requires fasting 2 months in a row. If the person is not able to, then they would be feeding 60 needy people. 60 needy people. It's approximately $600. Salama, right? If they're not able to, then they would just seek istighfar. This is for every single day that this happened. For every single day that this happened. Now, there is no differences of opinions between scholars on this matter. No differences of opinions between scholars that if this happened during the day of Ramadan, number one, it's haram. Two, that you would fast for 2 consecutive months. Three, or you would feed 60 needy people. Four, if you cannot afford. Not that, 16 needy people, it's a lot of money. No. That's if you cannot afford to feed 60 people, that's when you go for the other option, which is istighfar. Just do istighfar. We mentioned that one. Does the woman pay kafara too? Differences of opinions between scholars. If the woman accepted this, then yes, she pays kafara. If she accepted. If she didn't refuse, she didn't say, no, I don't want to. Alright, she didn't refuse, then she would pay kafara. But if she was, quote unquote, raped, then she wouldn't pay kafara. Oh, why did I say quote unquote rape? Because in Islam, rape is not between husband and wife. That's a different story. Alright? It's not between husband and wife. Alright, but I'm just, what I meant by that was force. Alright? Then she would not be paying kafara. Is it right? Alright. What if it happened more than once in Ramadan? If it happened more than once for every single day, it's 60 days of fasting. And for every single day, or 60 needy people. I mean, if it happened 3 times, it's 60 times 3. 180. If it's 4, 60 times 4. Whether it's 60 days of fasting, or 60 days, or 60 needy people to feed. So, or 60 times 4. Meaning what? What's 60 times 4? What?
240.
240? Okay, 240. 240 people to feed. Approximately what? 600. 600 times 4 is what? 2,400? Am I right?
What did you say the last?
600 times 4. $2,400. It's a whole month of income, right? All right. This is a question. I'll pass it really fast. Just you guys can read it. I'm not going to say the word. Okay. Generally, this is haram. This is haram generally. There's no doubt between scholars on that matter that the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually says in the ayah, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. In Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually says that the relationship can only be between a husband and a wife, or milk al-yamin. Milk al-yamin, that's the bondswoman. It's not there anymore. Between the husband and wife. Anybody that does anything beyond that, then they are the transgressors. Beyond that includes this, and also includes any type of relations. It's okay, you guys. You need to go?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So we go.
Any, take care, any type of relations that would be included in this. Now, when we say it's totally haram outside, meaning not outside meaning in public, but meaning it's totally haram outside of husband and wife relations, all right? Then we're actually, don't worry, I'm not going to go deep, all right? Then we're talking about if it happens during Ramadan, the person does not feed 60 people, but actually makes up 1 day. Makes up 1 day. Just 1 day. Generally, foreplay or these different things, generally it would be allowed if the husband and wife, they were guaranteeing that they weren't going to reach the climax of it. The Prophet ﷺ, in fact, the Sayyidah Aysha actually said that the Prophet ﷺ used to kiss his wives and would still continue his fast. So, in fact, Umar ibn Khattab said, do you see if you even gargle, does that make you lose your fast? No, it doesn't. When we actually speak about this, it does not, this is beyond somebody's control. Right? This is wet dreams, so it's beyond somebody's control. So you don't, even if the boy or girl went in through a wet dream, it doesn't break their fast. Because this is beyond their control. Alright? Therefore, it doesn't break their fast, but they are required to do the general ghusl, the general washing. Go ahead.
It's not about the wet dreams, but for in Morocco, a lot of those women, when they're making food for Ramadan, since they can't taste it, they'll put it in their mouth and then spit it out.
Okay. So there are different opinions between scholars on that matter. If the woman, for example, had she wanted to taste the food, generally, is tasting the food, is it a fast breaker or not? There are different opinions between scholars. The first opinion is that if you're just spitting it out, that you're not swallowing it, it's allowed. 2, the second opinion is that if you're actually going to taste it, they regarded that it does break your fast. The third opinion said if, for example, that she had a necessity. For example, her husband was just a tough man. If there's extra salt, it might ruin the day or the whole day or something. In other words, there's pressure on her. Then she can, or she's making a whole feast. She doesn't want to ruin, a $500 dish or whatever, and she wanted to make sure that this is the right amount. Then that's a necessity. Then she can taste it, but not swallow. So she's just putting it like a taste. Remember, our taste buds, each one tastes a different thing depending on where they are in the taste buds. Number 4 opinion is that it's best if she doesn't taste it, but she can taste without swallowing. All right? Taste without swallowing, because you're just really putting it on the taste bud. All right? Things that prevent breaking fasting, or prevent breaking your fast. Number 1, accidentally or by mistake. By mistake, here you are. It's a bad habit, but I see a lot of teenagers do that. They would, I don't know, they're putting some things in their mouth, right? So it's very common. It's very bad manners. I mean, I don't see why a toothpick is going in your mouth. Although, yes, it doesn't break the fast, but what is it? Not a toothpick, but a paper clip. What's a paper clip doing in your mouth? I've seen teenagers do that. What's a paper clip doing in your mouth? Seriously, I mean, but I see that very often. It's like, okay, all of a sudden got back to their infant age where they can't even tell what goes into the mouth and what doesn't go into the mouth. All right. So this is something. If somebody by mistake, for example, they swallowed something, does that break the fast or not? We're going to get there. Forgetting. They forgot that it was Ramadan and ate a whole dish. Don't you tell the stuff when that happens. Forced. Somebody forced you to eat. Right? Somebody forced you to eat. Now, all these 3 categories, there are different opinions between scholars simply But they did agree yet on the forgetting part. On the forgetting part, they agreed because there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said whoever ate or drank, and that is when they had forgotten, then they should continue their fast because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had fed them or given them a drink. We all know that one. But the other ones, which is by mistake or by force, that's where things kind of get different. Because scholars had different opinions on, they generally, let me start with the agreeing. They generally agreed that if somebody, for example, was driving with their car and they were reversing, or instead of hitting drive, they actually put reverse, and it unfortunately took them back and they killed somebody. Alright? They're not at sin for killing the person because it was by mistake. But they are required to fast 2 consecutive months. Even though they're not at sin for killing the person because it was done by mistake. But they're still required to fast 2 months. And they're still required to pay the diya, the blood money for the person that was killed, unless the family forgives. Alright? Now, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's a different story. Alright? Between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to hold him accountable for something he wasn't responsible for unless he was negligent. Meaning, he didn't have a license, doesn't have a license, is not trained to drive, etc. And he was just acting foolishly with a car. Then you're held accountable because you weren't even trained. You were not acting responsibly. Alright? You weren't acting responsibly. No, you are held responsible. You are held accountable, and you are considered that you killed somebody. Alright? But if the person, no, they are trained, but they actually thought that they put on drive, but unfortunately, sometimes they were just in a hurry, in a rush, and instead they put a reverse, goes back, and kills somebody. That can happen. With a second, blink of an eye, with a snap, all of a sudden, somebody's life can be taken away. Right? Now, by accident, when it comes to fasting, scholars had different opinions when we say by accident or by force, if that takes the same ruling as forgetting. The first opinion is that it does take the same ruling because the person didn't have the intention to transgress the boundary of fasting, so they broke the fast by forgetting. The second opinion is that no, when somebody is fasting and they forgot and ate, that's different than doing something accidentally. Because if you did something accidentally, then you are deliberately making your fast void. You ate something, whether you made a mistake and you just happened to think, oh, you thought it was the Adhan. It turned out that you actually had the wrong Adhan or the wrong country set up on your iPhone. You're hearing the Adhan of New Zealand. Alright? And it isn't until your sister told you, look, you have the Adhan of New Zealand, not the Adhan of Minneapolis. And you broke your fast all this time based on New Zealand Adhan. What happens then? Do you make up? Or is that by accident? Therefore, based on that hadith, you don't. Preponderant is that you make up. You make up. Why? Because when we look at the hadith, we look at that the person actually broke their fast. They actually are not fasting any longer. They actually ate, meaning fasting is about breaking or stopping from eating and drinking. from eating and drinking. When you ate, you actually terminated the fast. You terminated the fast. As for force, you would, now for that, for every single one of those days that you by mistake or by force, what is force? Force is that when somebody is threatening to harm your body or somebody else's body, or threatening to kill, that's when force would be considered. Not, oh, they actually told me that if I don't do what they want me to do, that they're going to tell on me. Nope, that's not force. That's not force. Force is if somebody says, you don't do it, I'm going to shoot. Or I'm going to stab. That's the force. Yet, pay attention. Force does not exclude the person from sin in 1, 2, 3, 4 cases. The following are, pay attention. What's that girl doing? Put that down. Pay attention. If somebody is forcing you to do something, force is not considered if somebody tells you, spit at your mom's face or I'll shoot. Let them shoot. Your mom or your dad. Nope. Let them shoot. Or somebody tells you, practice haram relations, zina that is, or I'll shoot. Do not accept whatsoever. 3. If somebody, for example, beat your mom or stuff like that, that won't be acceptable. Now, when we say that these are not acceptable, even though, if somebody told you, bow down to the cross or I'll shoot, go ahead and bow. But on a condition that when you bow down, you don't want to bow down. On the inside of you, you don't like that. That's not something that you want to do, but they're forcing you to do it. Alright? But they're forcing you to do it. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. They were forced, but their hearts fill with Iman. Alright? But their hearts fill with Iman. Now, when we talk about or killing somebody, forgot number 4, or killing somebody. So if somebody tells you, shoot Samia or I'll shoot you. Or shoot Samia or I'll shoot you. Get shot, but don't shoot Samia. Why? Because killing somebody by force is never acceptable. Get killed, but don't get killed. But don't kill. Get killed, but don't hit your parents. Get killed, but don't commit zina. Alright? Now, making up your fast, fidya or kafara. Now, when you make up your fast, is it fidya or kafara? We said fidya is different than kafara. Fidya is for the people that have an excuse to not fast, so they're taking option 2 because they're not capable of fasting. But kafara is when a sin was made. Alright? When a sin was made. So kafara would be if the person, for example, had intercourse during Ramadan. That's a kafara. That's not a fidya. A person they killed. That's a kafara, not fidya. A kafara is a ransom for making a sin. What is making up the fast required? Generally, if anyone breaks their fast with no permanent reason, illness, like permanent illness or old age, then they are required to make up that fast and may need to add feeding. Let's do it again. Now, when we say old age, what is the number of old age? No, old age is not necessarily a specific number. Somebody can be 70 years old and still strong and still keeps going. Alright? When we say old age, It's the age when the person cannot handle. In other words, their body is so fatigued that they cannot handle fasting anymore. All right? That's different than illness. They can't handle it anymore. Their body is not as strong. Right? Body is not as strong. Where they get sick, they start feeling drowsy, etc. That's when that age kicks in. Sturgeon, are you there yet?
I'm over.
You're
No, at that age, no.
MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how old are you?
70, almost 2.
72, MashaAllah. May Allah
Yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength. Good job. Good job. Good job.
I have more to do.
You have, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let you live for 110.
100's good enough. That extra 10 might be pushing.
Say Ameen. You know, the Prophet ﷺ actually made dua for Anas ibn Malik, that he would live long, and he lived up to 110. Anas ibn Malik. And he had more than 150 grandchildren. 150 grandchildren. And that was the Prophet ﷺ actually making dua for Anas ibn Malik. And Anas ibn Malik was just a young boy that his mom would tell him to go and work, help the Prophet ﷺ to learn from him. He was just a young boy. But the Prophet ﷺ making dua for the person. And that's it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the dua right away. Right? Dua, that's the Prophet ﷺ making the dua. On the spot it gets answered. On the spot. Right? Alright, so making a fast is obligatory and not permissible for a person to break their fast unless there's a legitimate reason for the person to break the fast. We mentioned that one. We mentioned all these. When we mentioned this. Did we talk about this? Yeah, we did. Fidya, we talked about this. Wow, we're going fast. Good question. Can fidya and kafara be paid in value? Let's do this. Now, generally, there are certain things. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ, during their time, they didn't have what we have today in terms of, certain currencies and all that. They don't have it as much as we have it today. So at the time, the Prophet ﷺ would, for example, the quantity, they would talk about, for example, cup, or they would say, for example, a number like a number of an amount of dates, or etc. They would talk about it more in size than weight. All right. Sometimes they would talk about it in weight. Right. But generally speaking, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said of kafara, he did mention, for example, dates, barley, wheat. Even when he talked about riba, he talked about barley, gold, wheat, dates. So the question is, what if certain countries don't have this? We don't use this type of food as it's not their intake. South America, for example, uses corn. Dates are not their food. They use corn instead. Barley in other areas. So each area depends on what their country can crop. Now, scholars had different opinions because some scholars understood that this was meant for those particular foods, for those particular items. Those are assigned, therefore that's what it's going to be. Other scholars, which is mainly Hanafi madhab, said no. It's not that he's specifying. That was something that was known in their country, in their area, so he was telling them of something that is useful to them. He's basing things based on their situation. So, to do things, it can be the value of whatever is valuable in that particular country. So, for example, if it's in Brazil, it's corn, then you can donate corn. And not just that, but if it's money that is more valuable for the people, donate money instead. This is really important. I get this question a lot. So if, for example, I wanted to do my, not zakah, but I wanted to do my, zakat al-fitr. I wanted to do the zakat al-fitr, and it's $11. Can I just go online, araha.com or .org, and just do it there? Or do it? No, I have to get an amount of dates or wheat and actually go and give it to the poor. And that's why different opinions between scholars, all right? The Hanafi madhab said you can give it in value. This is very known about the Hanafi madhab. You can give it in value. Therefore, you can go online and actually say, all right, we've got 5 kids in our family and my wife is pregnant too, so that's 6 people, $60, donate for Araha. Araha is an organization. Donate $60 for Zakat al-Fitr. Here we go. Online, credit card, that's it. All right? The Hanafi madhab said you can do that. The other majority of scholars, but be careful, because saying that something is the majority of scholars' opinion doesn't necessarily make it preponderant. All right? This is really important. Many people think, no, I want the majority. It doesn't make it preponderant simply because the majority said it. All right? It makes it preponderant based on the evidences that it carries. Evidences that it depends on, too, and sometimes the way we interpret and based on the scholar's reading. All right? So this is, can we pay it in value? This is to answer that one. What if the person that was supposed to make up their fast died and never had the chance to make it up? The wife, she was pregnant. She didn't fast all Ramadan. And then, when she was 30 weeks pregnant, all of a sudden she gets preeclampsia. Goes into seizure after seizure and eventually dies. She didn't make up all those days. She didn't get the chance. Now, number one, that woman, when she didn't fast, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man mata wa alayhi siyam, sama anhu waliyu." Whoever dies and he has a debt of fasting, then his wali, then the person that is the guardian or the person that is responsible, that is financially responsible, is supposed to be making a fast on their behalf. In this situation, the husband. So the husband is supposed to be making up the fast on the wife. Romance, huh? Right? Romance. But it's so sad that the wife died. And it happened actually in the community. We had almost 4 cases so far of sisters dying because of preeclampsia. And many of them because they refused to go and accept to take a C-section. 1 Bengali and 3 Somalis. Because they thought that C-section was haram. Yep. And it's so sad. Look at this wrong understanding of Islam. Led to the death of 4 women. 4 women. One of them actually had twins. Twins.
You need more condoms.
Actually, I need less in order to find it faster. And this is very sad. It actually, one of them had, like I said, twins, and it was a very tragic event. But no, it's because they would tell you, for example, you have high blood pressure, they'll do C-section in order to save the mom and save the pregnancy, right? And
I have seen when I was entering my GY internship, such a horrible condition.
I went through preeclampsia myself. Yeah, I went through preeclampsia myself.
They never wait for anything.
Yeah.
Like they do it
Right away. Yep, that's what happened to me. Right away, they came to me and said, "Hey, your kidneys are going for malfunction. Everything's going malfunction. All they bring me these papers, sign liability, and go right there." But I had to stay in the hospital for a whole month after that. So, for a whole month after that, even though, and they were giving me these magnesium sulfate. Man, that was horrible. That is horrible. You literally feel like your brain is boiling. It's very hard. All right. Imsak or early morning meal. Imsak or early morning meal. Generally, suhoor is not a condition for fasting. So if a person missed their suhoor, it doesn't mean that they don't fast. All right? We know that. Right? Yet, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have suhoor. And it's actually part of ibadah. No, you can do ibadah in different ways. Ibadah with eating. Ya salam. Ibadah by eating. That's the most lovely ibadah, isn't it? Ibadah to actually do suhoor. It's a blessing. When do you stop eating and drinking? Now, Fajr, this is more of a confusion in the countries that have the adhan. You've got the imsak and you've got the fajr. Alright? Fajr adhan is when you stop eating. Alright? In our calendars, they would actually tell you stop. Alright? So Fajr adhan is when you actually stop eating. The evidence is that the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba, don't stop from the adhan of Bilal, who used to make adhan first, but stop when you hear Ibn Maktoum doing the adhan, who used to make the adhan second. Bilal's adhan, which is the first adhan, was in order to wake people up. Having the second adhan was more to tell people an announcement, Siyam just started. Alright? Why? Well, when you say Fajr, that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Continue eating and drinking until you are able to recognize that is in the horizon a white thread that is distinguishing between the black and the white. Black and white meaning the darkness of the night and the light of the day. That's on the horizon. When you're able to distinguish that, meaning the start of dawn, the beginning of dawn, that's when your fast starts. Things that break your fast. Things that break your fast. Number one, we mentioned that a lot of things that break your fast, but that would only be considered if you know the ruling, you did not forget that you were fasting, and you did it by choice. When you say you know the ruling, this is very important to say that you know the ruling, because if, for example, in certain countries, or let's say in certain areas, they don't have access to scholars. Back in 1987, we only had this place. Actually, all this place wasn't even built. You remember, right? Then in 1987, we didn't really have any access to scholars. Whenever we had a question, we did not have a single scholar here in Minnesota. Whenever we had a question, we would have to call somewhere in Egypt or call somebody to ask a scholar. And many times, they didn't even know the answer, or many times they didn't even imagine the situation, because they would not even imagine what the situation is like abroad. And scholars said, الحكم على شيء فرع عن تصوره. Whenever you want to give a ruling, it's all based and determined on how you're able to imagine the case. Your understanding of the case can change and alternate the whole answer based on how you understood the situation. Right? And that's why there's a responsibility on the person that is asking a question to make sure that they're giving they're giving the details that are needed. 2, accurate details. Not to give what you want to hear the Shaykh say. Many times they'll give you information and you'll say the fatwa is this and this. When in reality, they gave the data that they gave was not the data that is describing the situation, but the data that they gave was based on the answer that they wanted to hear. We get that often. We get that often, especially when we're talking about husband and wife or marital problems. She'll say, my husband did this and this, and the story would be totally different. I'll tell you guys a story. A lady one time, I don't know if I probably heard it from you before, a lady one time called me, and I think she was calling from Virgin Islands or one of those far states. And she said, her husband is Egyptian, and she's Palestinian. She said to her husband, takes her money and is constantly calling his children and doesn't spend time with her. Now, based on what she said, things were adding up. At the time, to call Egypt, it would be like, for just a couple of minutes, that would be like $5. Just a couple of minutes, it would be like $5. Now, and the man is an imam at the masjid. In other words, he's probably making $2,400. In other words, if he's going to constantly be calling his children for hours, he'd be spending all of his income on phone cards. Right? Makes no sense. So based on what she said, I said, what you are saying is not adding up on many things, and I'm here going to consider that you are wanting to prevent your husband from talking to his children just to keep your husband to yourself. Especially that his children are living in Egypt. So, later, actually she said, he keeps hitting me. I said, how does he keep hitting you? Said, he's constantly hitting me. Said, well, if he's constantly hitting you, he's wrong at that, and that's domestic violence, it's haram. But, older sister, you have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot stop your husband from talking to his children. End of the story. Yet, 5 minutes later, I get a phone call. A man calling me, and he says, were you the one that was talking to my wife? Excuse me, sir, who are you? My wife was just talking to you. I'd like to know what you told her. She was asking me for a fatwa, and I don't have to tell you what I told her, and I don't have to tell you what she told me. She has the right to ask a fatwa with complete privacy. No, but you didn't hear my side of the story. Sorry, sir, whoever told you I have to hear your side of the story? I was not a judge at the time. I was doing a fatwa. A fatwa does not need to hear both sides. A fatwa is a question where it's more of one person asking a question. It's their job in order to give me the information in order to give the accurate answer. Well, let me tell you my side of the story. I said, well, I'm not here to actually do any marriage counseling. At the time, I wasn't doing it. So I said, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm actually ready to actually hear your side of the story. He said, you know what? Let me talk to your husband. Let me talk to your husband, and I'll tell him my side of the story. So here, I called my husband. I said, the guy wants to talk to you. He's like, talk to me. I'm not in for these kind of things. I don't want to get involved. I said, come on, just talk to him. No, give the phone to my husband, and he says, your wife was talking to my wife. My husband said, okay. He said, I'd like to know what she said. So I told my husband, I said, tell him that there's privacy, I won't give him. So the lady in the background was yelling out, tell him you hit me! Tell him you hit me on my head and you hit me everywhere. So my husband said, did you hit the lady? And he said, of course I did. And my husband said, you hit the lady? Why did you hit the lady? He said, well, here's what happened. I was sleeping. And then she calls my name. I didn't hear what she was saying. I was sleeping. So because I didn't hear what she was saying, she comes up to me and gives me a whole big, like a big punch right in the middle of my face when I was sleeping. I get up, look at the mirror just to see if my eyes are still there. So because of all the beating that I got from me when I was sleeping, I just got up and started fighting back. And I started hitting her everywhere. Now the lady didn't say this part of the story. He said, I started punching her everywhere that my hand can get on. The lady didn't say this part of the story whatsoever. He just said he hit me. She didn't say that she hit him back. Actually, she didn't say that she started the fight. This is real. This is not a hypothetical question. This is real. This is real. Allah al-Musta'an. Now, how did we get in here?
Understanding the grounds of before you go that way.
Absolutely. Understanding the grounds. Now, when we say knowing the ruling, that would mean that we have to seek talab al-ilm. We have to seek knowledge in order to make sure our fast and our life in general is based on the Islamic principles. If you have access to asking, not knowing the ruling is not an excuse. Because you have access to asking. You have access to learning. Not knowing the ruling would mean if somebody did not have access. They don't have internet, they don't have access to shuyukh, scholars, ulama, etc. That's a different story. Alright, we talked about this. Oh, we didn't actually talk about the suppositories, did we? Suppositories take the same the same ruling when we said the jaw. Remember when we talked about the jaw? Is it considered as jaw suppositories? You don't, or inserting a suppository or having an OB checkup does not mean that you would fast for 60 consecutive days. This is not intercourse. All right? Neither is a suppository. All right? Those don't break the fast. Even the speculum and all those different checkups, or even the vaginal ultrasound, it does not break the fast. All right?
We have to make the ghusl, even if you're not
You
trying
don't have to make the ghusl. No. Ghusl is only when it's a sexual relation or the person reaches the climax. That's it. No ghusl from those checkups whatsoever. Not one scholar said you need ghusl. Even when the OB check, no, don't do ghusl whatsoever. Even with, what's it called, the vaginal ultrasound, you don't make ghusl either. Even with a speculum, no, you don't make ghusl either. You guys know, married women, you guys will know about it in the future. Alright, don't make ghusl for any of these. Even when they do a cervical check or the pap smear, that doesn't break the fast. And it doesn't require ghusl either. Even pap smear and stuff doesn't require ghusl either. Alright? The food remains between the teeth. Alright? Generally you're supposed to be preparing yourself for fasting, but it does not break the fast. What about toothpaste? You're not swallowing the toothpaste unless you're having it for lunch. Alright? You are using it to clean, and then you're going to spit it out. Therefore, it doesn't break the fast. Alright? Neither does you feel the taste, because the taste is in your taste buds, not in your throat. So you're a doctor, I should have.
Yeah, I know, but that's okay.
Right. You feel the taste. Can you lick this table? Will you feel a taste? Yeah, you will. Right?
Okay.
But are you swallowing parts of a table? Are you? No. Are you in doubt about that? If you lick the table, did you swallow in part of the table?
Yeah.
No. Right? I'm seeing some people in doubt. Okay, good. The smell and the flavor of the toothpaste, for example, or mouthwash does not break the fast. Or the mouthwash doesn't break the fast. even the type like the Listerine and all that, doesn't break the fast. Vomit, that's a very important question. When we talk about vomit, it's really differences of opinions between scholars on the vomit, whether you induce the vomit or whether it got out by itself. So if the person induced the vomit, meaning they put their fingers inside, induced the vomit because of an illness, or they gave you some medication in order to make you vomit, right? That would be a fast breaker. All right? But if the vomit came out by itself, it was, in other words, it pushed its way out, then it's not a fast breaker. There's another opinion from the Shaykha that regarded depending on the quantity, but that's not actually an authentic hadith. Depending on the quantity, it's not an authentic hadith. So it's the more authentic one is that if you induced it or whether it came out on its own. Yet, this is going to sound disgusting. If the person vomited and then they got it back, all right, sorry, that breaks the fast. Mucus does not break the fast. Sorry, you guys, I know this is disgusting. Mucus, saliva does not break the fast. Why do I have to say this? Because, for example, in some countries like the Shaykha, you'll see people spitting all around because they think that saliva breaks the fast. It's fun. You got some people actually thinking that. So the hadith actually says, "Man dara'ahu al-qayt, falaysa alayhi qada." And this is وَمَنْ اسْتَقَاءَ عَمْدًا فَلْيَقْضِي. And this hadith is authentic. All right. Forbidden days to fast. Forbidden days to fast, haram, which are haram days to fast. Yawm al-Shak, the fasting ahead of 1 day before Ramadan or 2 days. Fasting after mid-month of Sha'ban. Fasting during Eid. Fasting during Tashriq. Fasting on Fridays. And the list goes on and on. Next week, inshallah, we'll be continuing this, and we'll also be talking. Let me exit this. We only have 60 slides. Next week is our last class then, inshallah. All right, next week is our last class, and then I'll be flying to Lebanon, inshallah. And wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad. Anybody has any questions? Go ahead.
I was wondering about people who are not able to fast, or like some people who do with surgeries or things like that, that they are told that they can become dehydrated. Yeah.
So if the person did a surgery, right, there's an incision, all right? So generally that is considered part of the illness. If there's an incision, or if that prolongs cure, then the person can actually break their fast because of illness. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So even if let's say an IV, does it break the fast? Of course, because it's like a nutrient. An IV fluid is giving you in the water. That's why you don't feel hungry. Yeah, you crave for food, but you don't. It's actually a nutrient. It's a replacement of the water and the food and the different fluids, and in fact they'll be putting in all these different things that your body needs. All right?
So for those people, then they don't need to wait to try to fast and wait until
No, because if you're talking about somebody that has a surgery, that means they're actually sick already. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to wait. They're already sick. And they don't have to attend because they're already sick. And if the doctor tells them your cure is going to take longer if you fast because the incision needs fluids, then they can actually break their fast. Because when you say your cure is going to take longer, that means there's an illness. When does the cure take longer? When there's an illness. Right? Common sense. Logic.
We'll shut here.
Of course. Of course.
I see a lot that some, like with weight loss surgery and things like that people, lots of people, they don't fast when they have the weight loss surgery because they said that the doctors say that they can become that they need to sip throughout, throughout the day because they won't get enough nutrients if they eat during that short time because they're not able to handle. They
So
don't have
I don't
enough
know
time to,
about
like,
the, I
nourish
think it's called
themselves.
gastric or bigastric
Yeah.
surgery or something like that. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about it to actually answer that question. And why is the doctor telling them that? Is it because of the stuff that they took out of their stomach, or what really did? So I don't know much about that.
Because they can't eat like a lot at one time. They
Right.
can only say like if you eat
Right.
just like even a small portion,
Right.
there you have a limited amount of hours, and that you won't be able to.
Right.
You'll become dehydrated.
Right. So, like I said, I don't know if, for example, they fasted for those long hours, right? Even if they can't necessarily take take a big meal. How is that going to affect their health? I don't know, so I can't answer that question. You see what I mean? I would have to know more details about it. Go ahead.
So if you're fasting and then like in the middle of the day you start cramping really badly, would you be able to break your fast to close?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you can't handle it, you're cramping really badly and you just can't handle it. Yes, you can. You got pain. It's harming you. You can take either the azima or ruqsa. Azima, enthusiasm that I want to, despite the pain, and you can take a ruqsa that I'm feeling pain, and I'd like to take some medication because I can't handle it. You can do that. That's a ruqsa. Any other questions?
If you decide to fast while you're traveling, when would you break your fast? Would you break your fast on the
once
time?
you leave, you can start breaking the fast when you are traveling. Once you leave the area of residence.
But if you choose to fast,
if you choose to fast, you'll get rewarded. Your fast is considered.
So, like, let's say your flight is at 7 or something,
okay,
and you only have like another hour or two. So
you cannot start until your flight leaves.
So
until it leaves the area of residence.
So if you want to, because then if I was traveling and it starts, my flight's at 7, and I already have only 1 hour or 2 hours left until Maghrib.
You cannot start until your plane departs, not the area, but departs your area of residence.
But then you would have to make it up.
You would have to make it up.
So but you can choose to continue to fast.
You can choose to continue to fast.
So then, if you wanted to continue to fast, what maghrib would you break your fast at?
I love that one.
Maghrib.
The maghrib that you would break your fast on is the maghrib of the area that you are currently in during flight.
So you just look out the window and say, okay, it's starting to get dark.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to see a better horizon than that.
Okay.
Right?
Depending on your what way you're going towards, shorter days or longer days.
Yep. Of course. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
If you're like traveling, do you if you decide not to fast, like when you leave your base of residence, when do you start fasting again?
Say it again. Say it again.
Okay. For me, we're going like 6 a.m. and then 6 p.m. and we're going to continue to fast. Like, when do we start fasting again?
Once you come back to your place of residence.
How about if that's like 2 months away?
That's fine. Yeah, you can, if let's say you're going to Morocco for a whole month, for example, you're going to Morocco for the whole month of Ramadan, you can break your fast for the whole month of Ramadan, and then once you get back to your place of residence, you can make it up. Alright? Because you're considered on a journey. You're not in your place of residence. But you have to make it up later on. Alright? Any other questions?
So then what would be considered your place of residence? Like
place of residence
for students who are away and for studying.
Place of residence is your own home.
So students that are away studying, they would, and they're not in their home, would that not be considered their home residence?
No, well, since they are right now living there, they're living there and they're considering that home, then that's home. But if they are students, let's say international student, all right, international student, they're coming here for a year. Home is the country, their country of residence. Can they break their fast and continue to even shorten the salah? Differences of opinions between scholars. Pay attention to this. The first opinion regarded that if the person is not home, regardless of how long they're staying, they're still not home. It could be a year, for example, then they would be considered as they're on a journey and they can shorten and also break their fast. The second opinion said 3 months is the longest. The third opinion said it's based on what you would actually shorten, so they would regarded it as what you shorten for isafa, for the journey. So they said, well, if you're there and you're in that area for a while, then you can, like 3 days, for example, this would be considered as safar. Other scholars, they regarded that, well, if you're there for a long time, and what that culture regards as a long time, and what that culture meaning the time, meaning, like our modern age, modern times, they would consider that a whole year now you have become a resident and you call it home. Some scholars regarded that opinion as well. All right. Now, when I have differences of opinions between scholars, although there are some scholars that said if the person is still going to be away for a whole year, they're still considered away from home, and they can still shorten and they can still not fast and make up later. But the best thing to do, because you have differences of opinions between scholars, to do what is called khurujan min al-khilaf, is stay away from the differences of opinions between scholars and do what they all agreed on, which is fasting and not shortening is better. Is everybody understanding? Mm-hmm. You see it? There's of course more details, but I'm just giving you the summary of the whole topic. All right. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad. We're going to be, inshallah, coming back next week and